to the agenda. Any from management? Okay, helps if I turn that on.
I'll give you the motion to accept the agenda as presented.
All those in favor? Sorry, Mr. Clark, I saw you were on the phone, so I figured you might have been a while, but kept it short. Thank you. Okay, minutes approval from our meeting on June 28th. Any issues, errors, and omissions? Seeing none, Mr. Gender gives us the motion to approve those. All those in favor? That's carried. We'll do quick introductions right now, and we're going to start with Michelle.
Michelle Hoover, Legislative Assistant.
Ernie Gender, Board Member.
Paul McKay, Board Member.
Larry Clark, Board Member.
Dave Brower. Justin Stevens, good afternoon.
Russ Stolberg, Board Member.
James Nyberg, MPC Chair.
Nikki Thorstensen, Communications.
Rick Teal, Director of Planning and Development.
And Tricia, Director of Municipal Services.
Gregory Jackson, Development Officer.
And ladies, just in the back, if you would, for the record.
Linda Brand. Janet Adams.
Thank you very much, ladies. Okay. Now, was there any business arising from the minutes? Anybody have anything that they want to discuss from administration? Okay. What we will do is 6.3, is that where we're at? Page 17 of our package. Since we have the applicant here, we will go to that. Do I see nodding of heads from our board members? I see enough. So we will go to 6.3, page 17. And who's taking that development permit?
I will, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Greg.
Good afternoon. Development Permit 23081. The subject property described as lots 2122, Block 2, Plan 171AE is located in the hamlet of Red Willow and is zoned hamlet residential. In 2022, Protective Services noted that the property was occupied, and upon review, it was determined that no permits had been applied or issued for this development. The applicant purchased the lots in 2017 with the intention of constructing a dwelling on the property. A tiny home was moved on the property to allow for temporary accommodations during construction. 2 sea cans were also located to the property to provide secure storage for tools and possessions. An unexpected death to the applicant's husband has stopped the progress of the construction of the dwelling unit. The applicant was unaware that the required permitting had not been completed by her late husband after discussions with planning and development staff. Immediately submitted all the required information for the application to be processed and paid the zero tolerance penalty of double the application fee for starting the development without a permit. The applicant is moving forward with the application as living accommodation, as living accommodations options are limited for her at the moment. And the current arrangement is temporary as she expects to leave the property within 5 years. The dwelling is a permitted use in the Hamlet Residential District. However, the current dwelling unit does not meet the required minimum floor area of 700 square feet. Therefore, the applicant is requesting a variance to remain in compliance. The sea cans are a discretionary use in the Hamlet Residential District. There are currently sea cans located on other properties in the hamlet being used as ancillary buildings. Section 23 of the County of Stettler Land Use Bylaw allows for the Development Authority to repeatedly make a decision on an application when the proposed development permit does not comply with the bylaw or is a non-conforming building. The development is screened by natural vegetation and is not visible from adjacent properties. It does not interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood, nor does it affect the value of surrounding properties. The Development Authority recommends approval of application DP 23062, subject to the following conditions listed in the MPC package, and the applicant is here today as well.
Okay. Any questions or concerns from board members? Ms. Braun, would you like to say anything? Thank you.
Yeah, unfortunately, my husband passed away a year after we were going to start building a house. It was our intention to retire here. We actually built houses in Stettler and surrounding area years and years ago when our boys were growing up and went to school here. So this is a place that was he liked and he wanted to retire. unfortunately, he passed away, and this is where I am now.
Well, our condolences to you for sure. And what is the board's thought pattern? Do we have someone who wants to move this forward?
Yeah, I will put the motion forward. I'm just wondering, because I see it says that she has to tie up to the municipal sewer. I don't know what they're using right now as a dumping part for the sewage, but I know when I checked it out, it was very, very clean, whatever, like there was no smell. It wasn't like it was being thrown out in the street or on the lawn or whatever. She keeps it up, so
And I don't think there is this right in Red Bull?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I may, the house is connected to an existing well on the property. Also is connected to a holding tank for wastewater, and the power is connected. The service is connected as well.
Any questions, concerns? Mr. Clark?
And as far as the CCAM storage building is, it looks pretty.
Very nice, yeah.
Really nice. The only thing is that one end with, one board missing is the only thing that.
It doesn't look all that different than most tin shops. From a distance, you couldn't tell the difference.
It looks, yeah, from the one top picture, it's very nice. I would definitely like to have that on my property. No problem with that. Okay, any questions or concerns? I'm not seeing anything else. I will, okay, Joe, you're lucky.
Oh, just on the road. I guess like I'm just looking at it, the circumstances of it that these people have come under, that they were charged, say like the extra fee. I'm just kind of wondering whether we could possibly see generosity.
That's for another motion. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna deal with this one first and whether we approve it or not. But if you would like to make that motion later on, that would be something that would come back. Okay, so I just don't want to cloud the issue. Let's get the important stuff dealt with first. Okay, I'm going to call the questions for approval or disapproval of this development. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, Mr. Gender.
Like I look at the unfortunate circumstances that these applicants have come into, and I'm not really sure like how it would really work out on, say like with the doubling of the application fee being that it happened before then. I guess I'm just looking at some leniency, whether we can waive this second.
What was the fee?
Do you recall?
Double the application fee, so because of the use was a discretionary use and it coming to MPC, application fee would be $300. So the penalty for starting a development without a permit would be double the application fee, so it was $600 charged to the applicant.
And Ms. Braun, was that a hardship to you or?
Fine,
Okay. So I think you,
but I appreciate it.
yeah, there you go. Very good. Okay, so you're good to go. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome to sit and enjoy the rest of the meeting with us.
I can take you before.
There you go. Fair enough. I totally understand.
And I was a few more problems.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Thanks. What we'll do is we'll go back up to the development officer's report. We'll go through it in order now. We don't have anybody online, do we?
Just about.
Just a bit. Okay. So 5.1, page 3 of our package, gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman, if you may, I'll go through that with you in point form. So far to date, we've, at the writing of this report, we processed 84 development permits. We are above that at this point in time now. Every day, some new permits seem to be coming in. We're pretty much on par with last year's numbers for development permits being worked on, as last year we were around 87 at this point in time. There's no real trend one way or the other than the fact that due to increased government funding and incentive in regards to solar installations, we have processed 5 applications so far. 4 are roof mounted and 1 is a standalone solar array. And we do have another application that was just dropped off recently for another standalone array that we'll be processing this week. So
These are not commercial, they're personal.
these are for private use, utility correct. So that is one trend that we are seeing that there are more of in this year alone. We've also been working quite closely with protective services while on enforcement and compliance issues. One note that I would personally like to make regarding that is the fact that we do see a lot of positive results coming from landowners coming in and property owners coming to us looking to see what they can do to make sure that their properties are in compliance and working with us in that regard. So that is a good positive effect anyways.
Mr. Jackson, do we have we have a lot of these development permits and they get issued, but do we know when they're actually completed? Do we ever get a completed status go forward?
What we're working on currently and moving forward is the fact that a lot of the development permits will require a safety codes building permit. And so conditions in our development permits and working with the property developers, the owners, we are requiring that they submit those applications when they've been applied for the development, as well as we are requesting that they submit the signed off development permit inspection sheet by the accredited inspector and the company as well. So we know that they've been through, the development is complete and has been signed off by a safety codes officer inspector that it has all been done.
Do we have, like subdivisions and developments, do we have a tracking system that we can know that, because somebody could come in and ask for a subdivision and never complete it, or they fill out an application for a development, never complete it. I mean, it's one thing to say that we're on par with the same way we are, but are they completed?
Mr. Chairman, I'll answer that one for us. For development permits, it's probably fair to say as we move to our new system, we probably have to look at that and do a little bit more active than what we've done in the past. We'll no longer have the prior to issuance conditions, which has historically been kind of one of our checks as whether or not the applicant's been moving forward. We're going to have to move to a system where we actually set it up so we actually do the follow-up as much as 2 years, 24 months later to make sure that they're still complying with that part of the land use bylaw to meet the completion date, or they're getting a formal extension where the development officer is allowed to give one, or coming back to MPC for an extension. On the subdivision, it's fairly informal. We do keep a spreadsheet, and then there's the ones that are just sitting in the drawer that haven't moved anywhere. So that's, which right now, I think there's around 7 from built up over the various 70 years in the drawer right now that at any point an applicant could come and say, okay, I haven't changed my mind, but at that point, now they'll need an extension, which would come back from municipal planning commission to deal with. Others, as they're closed out, they kind of just moved off, record them as endorsed, and off we go.
I'm just wondering if we could, blue highlight the ones that are done and completed on a list like this that has been given to us and say, we know these are done and they're completed and, finished, done, right? So, okay. Just my thoughts. Okay, thank you for that. Anybody want to give me I'll go with Mr. Clark, hand up first. Receipt for information, no questions, all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to go to 6.1, page 5 of the package.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are development permit number 23062. The subject property described as lot 72, block 2, plan 052, 2242, excuse me, is located in the Buffalo Sands subdivision and zoned resort residential community serviced. The applicant is proposing to construct a carport adjacent to the dwelling. An ancillary building is a permitted use in the district. However, the applicant is requesting a variance to construct the carport from the required 3 feet to a 2-foot setback from the side property boundary. The proposed development meets the requirements of section 23.4 of the land use bylaw to allow for the variance. The proposed development will not cause undue hardship or affect use or value of adjacent properties. Condition included in the development permit will mitigate any concerns that runoff created by the proposed development will not cause any flooding to the roadway or neighboring properties. The Development Authority recommends approval of application DP 23062, subject to the following conditions listed in the MPC package.
Okay. Gentlemen, questions or concerns? Mr. Clark.
Just a question, when you look through the pictures on that, there's a building behind it. Is that tied to the property? Or is it to the property behind it?
Are you looking at the bottom, basically the bottom picture on page 6?
Yeah, the one that's on screen right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, that building is as well in the property. It is located at the back of the property, separate to the detached lot.
And it wouldn't be possible for them to stay within the requirements. It seems everything we do up here is variance. You know, because would it be possible for them to put their carport in and leave the 3?
Have the 3 feet?
Yeah.
What is the overhang that they're looking at on that side?
The overhang of the carport
Or are they,
into the,
are they gonna flush
it'll be
in?
flush, yeah. So basically it'll be a 2 feet flush to the edge.
Mr. Gender?
That was a question, okay, like with the overhang on the eave, is going to be flush with the building?
That's what we just said, yeah.
Pointing out, Mr. Chairman, when we measure setbacks in yards, we measure 2 foundations of walls, not eaves per se. Those typically are allowable, we call them encroachments instead of rejections in our land use bylaw into those yards. It doesn't mean you can do a 4-foot eave and go over your neighbor's land, but we do allow them to intrude into that 3-foot space.
And my concern with that, and I realize that, but the concern that I have with it is we've had this issue of emergency management, getting a fire truck in or doing something. If that eave carries over into that space, I'm a little less likely to, because now you're going from.
Depending on the height clearance, yeah.
Yeah, your clearance at the top is not, if it's flush, then that's the variance that we're giving at the top as well. So that's my concern with it, so that was my question. Because the other house does look fairly close. Okay, are there any other questions or concerns? Mr. Stevens. I almost called him Mr. Jackson. Justin Jackson.
Well, there's worse Justins to be called, I guess. I will give you the motion to approve with staff recommendations.
34% setback, okay. Any questions, concerns? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor and opposed? I have 2 opposed, which is Mr. Clark and Mr. Grover. Okay,
So, Mr. Chair, we still have, that motion failed. We do need a motion on what to do with the permit. So someone has to put forward a motion of alternative.
no, it passes. It's 2 opposed.
Sorry, I was thinking, I thought we had went the other way.
Yeah, we got a powerful vote.
They only get,
They only get 1 vote each.
we can vote to have, right?
Okay,
Get to that one. Councilor Grover.
moving on, 6.2, page 11, development permit. Mr. Jackson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Development permit number 23069. Subject property described as lot 78, block 2, plan 0522242 is located in the Buffalo Sands subdivision and zoned resort residential community serviced. The use of an RV as a dwelling unit is permitted in the district, and a valid permit has been issued for the previous several years for the subject property. Upon purchasing a newer RV unit and placing it on the property, the applicant submitted a request for a new development permit to maintain compliance. The applicant is requesting a variance to the front yard setback stated in section 110.14A and B of the County of Stettler Land Use Bylaw from 25 feet to 20 feet due to the natural topography of the property dropping off steeply midway through the lot, making it difficult to place the RV in a level position. The proposed development meets the requirements of section 23.4 of the Land Use Bylaw to allow for the variance. The proposed development will not cause undue hardship or affect use or value to adjacent properties. The setback of the RV matches the placement of the previous RV. Sufficient space for vehicles to park on the property is supplied. Street and traffic sightlines are not impeded by, and there have been no complaints previously recorded regarding the property. The Development Authority recommends approval of application DP 23069, subject to the following conditions listed in the MPC package.
So help me out with this one. There are certain areas of the lake that there is a moratorium and you have to build within 2 years. Where exactly is this one?
This is Buffalo Sands.
Okay.
So the condition in the development permit for this district is that after an RV ages 15 years or older, they would apply for another development permit. Or in this case, where the RV was changed from the original RV and placed a new one, the applicant applied for a new development permit to match.
And in some places at the lake, you have only 2 years and you have to.
Correct.
But this is not that. Okay. Any questions, concerns, Mr. Stevens?
I will give you the motion to approve the staff recommendation.
Okay. Any questions, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. Okay, and we did 6.3. We're going now to subdivision. Page 23, 7.1. Who's taking this one?
That would be me, Mr. Chair. So this application is located just south of Highway 590 near the village of Big Valley. It creates a 10-acre, a little bit less than 11-acre parcel in the upper northwest corner, which you see on the screen beside you. In the south end of that, it accommodates an existing house and some outbuildings, a farmstead. And this would be the first parcel out of this particular quarter section. So it's not subject to environmental reserve dedications or municipal reserve dedication. The interesting aspects of this particular subdivision application involves the dedication of road widening along Range Road 20-1. Right now, that's a 20-meter wide right-of-way, and our desire is to get it up to 30 meters, so 5 could be provided on this side using a road acquisition agreement. Along the east side of the proposed parcel or through it, there is a high-pressure pipeline which does contain a sour pipeline. So we have feedback from AER saying because there's already an existing house, a setback is not required. If a new house is to be built, it would have to meet the whatever requirements that are applicable to that pipeline for whatever level of sour gas is going through to that point. The 10-acre shape that you see is meant to encompass for the new parcel boundaries, so that being the south one and the east one that are being created, the 90-meter distance from the existing septic or open discharge point. Maybe if you can scroll to the next 2 drawings down, I believe Andrew takes us to that. So since this open discharge has been in place prior to 1991, it can get a pass from the setback distance from the existing property lines to the west, and if it was closer to the north, but it's not. But anything, new property boundaries must meet the current regulations in the private sewage regulation, and that's why you see it shaped the way you do. And the desire with the applicant was to have some land for possible farm animals or pasture, which is why they extended it all the way up to the north, and also just to square it off for agricultural operations. The existing access is suitable. It's a little bit questionable on whether or not the bush or the shrub that's on the north side is on the private land or in the county property. I think that's all on the private property, so brushing wouldn't necessarily solve it, but it is a low volume road, so it seems acceptable. Looking down the road, which is the next photo, the remnant will need a new access point. There seems to be a couple points where something can be placed. It may involve a little bit of shaping to get into the land and avoid some of the local low spots that would cause problems for visibility, but there seems to be enough space along that frontage to work with to find a suitable access point once a approach application is put into us. So the recommendation, I did want to talk briefly to the Rural Development Fund calculation. Staff applied the policy and we've treated this as a farmstead removal, and then we measured how much of the existing shelter belts, existing buildings would qualify, and that did come up less than the 5 acres that we would ordinarily give for a bare land parcel being created. But following that approach, the Rural Development Fund contribution is basically about 7 acres at $1,000 an acre. The recommendation is for approval, and if we can scroll down to the conditions, subject to some of the ones that are becoming somewhat standard for you to see. So first up is have a surveyor prepare the drawing plan, and they have already done that in this case. Settle out property taxes or pay by the October 31 deadline that everyone's afforded. The road acquisition agreement, getting an approach application for the balance, and also still looking at the brushing permission for Public Works to go in and look after that if necessary. I don't believe there's a condition number 6, Andrew, if you can just.
That's it. So that is it for the presentation, Mr. Chair.
So, just a question. I see this is the applicant is comfortable with surveyors, and I think that's Ward's company. Are they turning this into a commercial property?
That's a family, it's family living there.
It's interesting that there would be an applicant that would be a company, a limited company making the application, that's what I'm wondering.
Actually, it's, we don't see it a lot, but it happens a lot in subdivisions. So this particular case, yeah, surveyor has been, and I'm not sure about the relationship, the Wallace name could literally be a coincidence, I don't know. But surveyors can be asked to put in an application on behalf of someone. So they sign the authorization form, and then we interact with them as the applicant. Our system doesn't make everyone hire a surveyor right up front. That's why more often than not, we see the landowner themselves.
Oh, okay,
Themselves.
good, that's for clarification. Mr.,
I move that.
okay, any questions or?
The county's gonna do the bushing on there, because I already got it on the program.
Okay, is there any questions or concerns? Seeing none, we'll move. Last question, all those in favor? Thank you. Carried. Any new business? Any old business? Then we have a in-camera session number 10. Somebody want to take us in camera? Mr. Stolberg? Well, all those in favor? That's carried.